Hello everyone! Thunderous Wolf here. A couple of weeks ago, I announced that for hitting the 5k subs milestone, I'd be doing a Q&A video, and you all did not disappoint, as I've got a good number of questions to answer. So, without further ado, let's begin. Stilgar asks, what is the worst video game you have ever played? When it comes to the worst video games I've ever played, I've got my fair share of contenders. Games like Ace Combat Assault Horizon and Need for Speed Undercover, for instance, are so fundamentally flawed that I'm left full-blown resenting those games whenever I'm done playing them. Those are the kinds of games that I would only ever record or stream. Ain't no way I'd be going out of my way to play those games on my own. However, there's a game that tops this list for me. A game that is so bad that I will always hate it until the day I die. Battlefield 2042. As of right now, at least, this is the worst video game that I have ever played. I'm gonna sound like a broken record given how many times I've mentioned it, but 2042 is a complete betrayal to the Battlefield franchise and an utter failure across the board on its own. All of Battlefield 2042's main features were either killed off entirely or toned down. The specialist system got reverted back to the class system. 128 player battles got reverted back to 64 player battles. Hazard Zone was dead on arrival with support being pulled only a few months after launch, and Portal got ruined because the XP got severely limited due to people creating XP farming lobbies. And the tone of the game was all over the place. 2042 is set in a world where entire nations have collapsed and everyone is fighting to simply survive, let alone thrive. So for the specialists to be treating each battle, each life or death fight like it's an airsoft or paintball match is incredibly tone deaf. And what makes this all hurt even more is the hype that surrounded this game. I fell hook, line, and sinker for the hype. Hell, I think we all did at first. But then the beta came along and it was clear that this game was in no way ready for release. The game was delayed by only a single month, and even if the game magically became perfectly stable by then, the core fundamental issues like the original specialist system would have still made this game abysmal. I was actively hyped and looking forward to 2042. I desperately wanted this game to be good, which made it hurt all the more that 2042 sucked. Without question, the worst video game that I've ever played as of this video. Marvelous asks, hardest game you've ever completed? Baldi's Basics or Changed? I'm tied for both of those right now. For Baldi's Basics, the amount of RNG that is present in that game is absurd. You can have your optimal route planned out to a T, and the game will still find ways to screw you over. The principal sneaking up behind you as you're running, playtime forcing you to play jump rope, first prize pushing you back down all the way to the opposite end of the hall. It took me 6 hours and some change just to beat the classic style. I can't imagine how bad the RNG is for the other versions. And for Changed, the original version, not the special edition, it's got janky controls, a couple BS chase sequences because of those janky controls, and the f***ass bats. Those damn RNG bats! And for anyone about to say that me getting the bad end doesn't count as me beating it, it's called a bad end for a reason. I count that as a win. I'm also gonna preemptively say that Tripang 2's Rage Mode playthrough will be the hardest game I've ever completed in the future because I want to give it a try. I've seen some gameplay of Rage Mode on YouTube and it looks like hell. Man, I really am a masochist. Baldi's Basics, Changed, and now this? Ugh. While I would say that Baldi's Basics or Changed is still harder, Battlefield 2 Modern Combat is another difficult game that I've completed now that I think about it. This is purely due to the last mission being the equivalent of eating some spicy wings where you've got leftover spicy sauce on your fingers and then you rub your eyes and finger yourself immediately afterwards. In other words, pain. Splooey asks, name 5 artists and streamers that you really enjoy. They don't need to be in a particular order. 5 artists that I really enjoy: Hey Fizzy J, Andre Moraf, Motfowl, Yobi, and Juice Sips. And 5 streamers that I really enjoy: Whiskey Dingo, Jawl, Skyfox, Blur the Fur, and Ursinus. Werewolf Lover 20 asks, have you seen Murder Drones? And if so, what are your thoughts on it? I have not seen Murder Drones. However, I did skim through the pilot episode as soon as I saw this question, and it does look really neat. I'm gonna have to give it a watch sometime soon. Chu asks, favorite indie animated series / analog horror series? I haven't been keeping up to date on too many animated and analog horror series as of late, but FNAF Analog Horror is a particular favorite of mine. I know that's a bit of a cheating answer since it's a general all-encompassing response rather than on a specific series, but I'm sticking with it. It stems from the fact that FNAF has a bit of a special place in my heart since it was a significant part of my preteen and teenage years, so I've got that emotional attachment and investment. The Return to Freddy's, the Gran reopening, and Freddy Jr.'s Origins are 3 of my favorites. series. Something that I have to highlight with all three is how incredible these series are able to depict things like people getting stuffed into suits or William's murdering spree. The games leave it up to our imagination as to how this all went down, but to see and hear these depictions of these horrific events, especially with how amazing the music, voice acting, camera shots, and more all are, it sends chills down my spine. Green Eagle 5000 asks, where did the idea of being a Fulf come from? The idea of being a wolf-fox hybrid, aka a Fulf, came from a mixture of my Sona's lore along with common traits and characteristics given to wolves and foxes in the real world. Although I still need to flesh out the specifics like country names, the actual layout of said countries, different government bodies for each of them, etc., Thunder is the leader of a Special Operations Air Force fighter squadron. Being the leader of a 4-man team being sent on some of the most dangerous and risky missions a pilot could face, that requires Thunder to be a good leader along with being a cunning and tricky pilot against the enemy. Wolves are represented as leaders of the pack, which ties into his squadron leader role, and foxes are represented as cunning and tricky, which is required for Thunder since he often needs to utilize unconventional / unheard of tactics and strategies in order to win battles. That said, he can still kick some serious ass with conventional means of fighting too. Think Ace Combat in terms of how aerial warfare in Thunder's universe is done. Captain Duct 5082 asks, question, what is your life goal? I guess my life goal is to be happy. I don't have a set career goal in mind for my life. Not yet, at least. I know I've talked about becoming a firefighter / EMT on my streams before, and I think I mentioned maybe trying to join the Air Force Reserves as a pararescue jumper in an older video of mine. Being a PJ, I don't know about that anymore, but I could still see myself being a firefighter / EMT. Though, if the opportunity to do content creation full-time ever showed itself, you bet I'd grab a tight hold of that and not let go. Now, do I think I'll ever be able to actually do that? Be able to pay my bills and put food on the table purely through YouTube and Twitch? Realistically, no. I'm keeping my expectations within reality. But again, if that opportunity does show itself in the future, I'm gonna go for it. But to go back to your original question, yeah, I'd say my current life goal is to be happy. Athoma Critics, I hope I said your name right, says, I cannot wait to see your retrospectives on the final 3 Aces titles. Hey, glad you're looking forward to them. Doing these retrospectives has been super fun, and I'm glad to hear that people are enjoying them. Jojo the Meme Dealer asks, congrats on the 5K subs. Hey, thank you. What would you think if, during his off time, Longcaster hosted a cooking show? Something like foods to eat while you bomb, style, on the enemy. I love this idea. Longcaster would be a great host for a cooking show. I can just imagine that he's got a whole list of his favorite foods that he likes to eat whenever he's overseeing a mission in the AWACS plane, and episode by episode, he cooks them all. Maybe in the middle of his cooking during the episodes, he talks about Trigger's accomplishments during the Lighthouse War, and maybe he tells stories of Aces from previous wars as a nod to previous Ace Combat games. I can also imagine a specific segment in the cooking shows where Longcaster pops something into the oven, for instance, and he needs to wait for it to cook. So during this time, fans who watch the show submit their attempts at making the recipe that's being made for the episode. And whenever Longcaster sees a horrific end result, he goes into Gordon Ramsay mode, just flaming the person. Like, normally Longcaster is this chill and laid back guy, but maybe he's got a hidden scary side whenever he's forced to bear witness to culinary atrocities. Either way, I love this idea. Foxtrot51 asks, how'd you come up with / get your username? Is there a story behind it? I got my current username from my persona's name and species. Thunderous being a kind of play on words of his name Thunder, and Fulf being the fact he's a wolf-fox hybrid. But before I arrived at the current username that I'm using now, Thunderous Fulf, I used to go by ZombieMan101 online. ZombieMan101 came from that being my username on Xbox when my stepfather was first setting up my Xbox Live account back then. That's right, I picked a not cringy username as a preteen. No XX at the start and end, baby. Well, at least for Xbox. When I dipped into the world of multiplayer through PlayStation with my PS Vita as a preteen, I named myself CODGamer334, but we don't have to talk about that. ZombieMan101 was the username I rocked for years and years. Although I was a furry in secret ever since the mid to late 2010s, I didn't go public with it until around 2020, 2021 when I got Thunder's reference sheet. It was around then that I went through with the name change to Thunderous Fulf. I actually remember thinking to myself when I went to change my Xbox username, damn man, this is the end of a personal era, my ZombieMan101 era. Goes to show just how impactful usernames can be. When I got to change my username on PlayStation though, I said, thank God. No looking back, no hesitation on my part. Odyssey Fox asks, "Hey Fulf, I love your content." Hey, thank you. And love seeing a fur get popular in a space where there aren't too many around, lol. Anyway, question, have you been to any fur cons, and if so, how many / which ones were your favorite? Glad you're enjoying everything. I've been to 3 cons so far. Anthro-Ohio 2023 to the fur-flung regions of space, Furry Weekend Atlanta 2024 Furry University 2, and Furry Weekend Atlanta 2025 Future Punk. Ranking them from least to most favorite, Anthro-Ohio 2023 is in 3rd, FWA 2025 is in 2nd, and FWA 2024 is in 1st. Anthro-Ohio 2023 is at the bottom because it was a beginner con for me. Smaller space, not as much to see and do in comparison to something like FWA, but I still had a fun time. And I'm super glad I eased my way into going to fur cons with a smaller scale one before heading to a much larger one. If I went to the larger one first, I don't know how I would have handled that. FWA 2025 is in 2nd place for me because while I still had a ton of fun, some hiccups with things like the virtual queue system and how they mishandled the line for the Moonlight Festival at first bumps it down ever so slightly for me. FWA 2024 is the best con I've been to yet. Same levels of fun that I had with FWA 2025, but without the hiccups like the virtual queue system and Moonlight Festival line. Overdriver05 asks, got some questions for you, Thunderous Fulf, and it has something to do with your Ace Combat retrospectives. Since Goshina is the main composer for Joint Assault, are you interested in covering the God Eater series, since, you know, he's also the main composer of those games? And if you're covering Assault Horizon soon, will you be adding in your personal first-time reaction to that moment in the final mission of the game? You know, the one after the boss fight. As of right now, I don't have any plans to cover the God Eater series. Cool to know Goshina's the main composer for those games too, though. And you bet I'm gonna be doing a recreation of my first reaction to the moment after the boss fight. Epic slow-mo bullet time after an on-rail scripted boss fight. Oh shit. There's a reason why this game is sometimes called Call of Duty Assault Horizon. 8T001S asks, opinion on the Yuktobanian Communist Party. Oh, yep. Storm199307B asks, if you could go back in time and change one thing in your YouTube journey, what would it be? If I could go back in time and change one thing in my YouTube journey, I would not go through with deleting all of my early videos during the Kappa scare of 2019-2020. A bit of lore for those of you who don't know, I was actually uploading YouTube videos in the mid to late 2010s while I was in high school. Were they any good? God, no. It was your usual video game let's play plus whatever else I came up with, throwing things at the wall to see what sticks beginner YouTuber strat. But even though those super early videos were bland and boring and such, I do wish I still had them around looking back on it. But to give context as to why I deleted them, back in 2019, YouTube got busted for serving targeted advertising to people under the age of 13 without giving any sort of opportunity for parental consent to be provided. I know I've said on streams that it was for children under the age of 12 without any mention of the parental consent part. That's an error on me. I've been misremembering. So on top of the $170 million fine that YouTube had to pay, the Federal Trade Commission said that YouTube needed to implement a system that would identify what videos were and weren't meant for kids. And if the FTC felt like someone had miscategorized their video, that person would get hit with a fine of around $42,500 per video. Not even as a whole, per video. I'm gonna be paraphrasing MatPat's video about Kappa for this next line, but fines like these could have wiped out families and businesses overnight. The reason why people were so worried at the time was because of how vague the rules were, specifically what the FTC classified as kids content. Things like animations, video games, etc. Adults like things such as animations and video games too, but the overlap on that, coupled with how vague the rules initially were, led to a lot of panic. This level of panic and uncertainty leading up to January 2020 was unrivaled. And there I was in the middle of all of this, 18 years old, in the middle of my senior year of high school, faced with the possibility that I could be paying multiple $42,500 fines as my first bills to pay as an adult. Coupled with the fact that I only had a couple hundred subs at the time and nothing was monetized since I wasn't in the YouTube partner program, it just wasn't worth it for me to risk it. So, I nuked my entire channel. No videos were left standing. Kappa went into effect, and outside of a few weird cases of the AI algorithm categorizing videos in series such as Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared as kids content, it wasn't so bad. Looking back on it, Kappa didn't really affect the YouTube landscape as much as people were thinking it would, at least in my experience. Putting my channel back in the Wayback Machine takes us back to when I had 300-something subs, but not before 2020. So, yeah, even if my early pre-Kappa videos were awful, I do wish I still had them around. Nobody.exe50 asks, what's the direction you think the Ace Combat franchise should take in the future with 8 and forward? I kinda liked 7 with some new stuff, and it was still to its core an Ace Combat game. The story was kinda meh for me, but I kinda liked it being more of the same with some new stuff. Personally, the custom camos from Assault Horizon and big battles from 6 should come back along with multiplayer co-op, not just deathmatch. I think that Ace Combat should keep the core gameplay and fundamental feel of 7, but expand on that some more. Add in the Wingman command system again. Let us be able to pick our squadrons, planes, and special weapons. Custom camos like you mentioned would be cool, but I'm not talking about only being able to change the colors of predetermined looks like in Assault Horizon. I mean a full-blown editor like the one found in Armored Core 6. For the multiplayer, I'd want the series to go in the direction of infinity in terms of content and variety. The microtransactions in the fuel system though, hell no, get that shit out of here. But the big-ass tech tree with all the different aircraft and special weapons you could use and level up, the emergency sorties for super weapon boss fights, the naval team deathmatch mode, like, I want this level of depth to the multiplayer, especially after the lackluster multiplayer that 7 has. I still want single player to be the bread and butter main focus for Ace Combat, but I want there to be more love and care put towards the multiplayer too. Pexel Effects asks, what kind of music do you tend to listen to casually versus what music, if any, do you listen to while editing down videos? Casually, I listen to whatever particular game's music I'm in the mood for. I don't go by specific genres, but rather specific games. So one day I may be feeling Metal Gear Rising, another day I may be feeling Ace Combat 4, another day Ace Combat 0, another day Gran Turismo, you get the idea. As for while I'm editing, I usually don't listen to music as I work. Speaking from experience, I find that listening to music while editing can lead me to making things slightly too loud or quiet since I can't hear things like my voice or the music I'm putting into the video as clearly. And if I'm in a situation where I gotta do something like keyframe the background music volume so that for any quiet or loud parts they're adjusted appropriately, I find that I can miss the mark if I have another audio source messing with my focus. Josh McCallop 6053 asks, if you could pick 3 fictional non-Ace Combat aircraft to add in as DLC, which ones would you pick from the following 3 categories? Anime, movies, games. One for each category. My anime choice would be the Valkyrie from Macross. I know, probably predictable and basic for some, but I'm sticking with it. This also stems from the fact that I don't really watch anime, so I'm not too familiar with the fictional aircraft from it. My movie pick would be the FA-37 Talon from 2005 Stealth. This aircraft would fit right at home with the superplanes of Ace Combat, I feel. Or if not a superplane, then the literal last step before superplane territory. And my game pick would be the FA-181 Black Wasp from Arma 3. Perfect for a mid to high tier plane. Storm Chasing K9 asks, dream car in real life? I've got 2 categories of dream cars. A dream car that I can see myself achieving at some point, and a dream car that I doubt I'd ever be able to drive, let alone own. For the car that I could actually have a shot at driving/owning, that would either be a 2014 or 2020 Corvette Stingray. For the car I don't ever see myself driving, let alone owning, that would be a Koenigsegg Agera R. Exponaut R01 asks, hey, TF. Okay. Worst grind you've ever been through in a game? War Thunder, without question. A couple of years ago, I had a friend introduce me to War Thunder, which resulted in me having a bit of a kick that lasted for about a month or 2. I'd hop onto my PS5, do my fair share of air arcade battles for the day, then be done. But after getting into the US Tier 3, Tier 4 aircraft territory, that's when the grind really started to become unbearable for me. Coincidentally, this was also when those options to pay for premium and to level up your aircrew and to potentially buy a premium high-end aircraft looked very tempting. But even if I wanted to shell out money to the snail, around the tier 3 to 4 levels of aircraft was when I noticed the game started to become genuinely less and less fun. I'd get upset faster and I'd become more toxic towards the game as well. I was actively becoming a worse person the more I played the game. After a while, I had my fill of it for one lifetime. I deleted the game and never looked back. I can confirm that not playing War Thunder has made me happier. It always confuses me why people swear against and hate games like War Thunder and Call of Duty, yet they continue to play those games. RageTH22 asks, wait, you're only at 5K? As of right now, I am. Yep, I'm hoping to be able to hit my 10K goal as fast as possible. That being said, I don't have a specific goal in mind as to when I want to have those 10K subs by. Just whenever it happens is good with me. Ninman3711 asks, how would you fix the Call of Duty series, the multiplayer and campaign? Focusing on the multiplayer first, the very first thing that I would fix is the matchmaking. Call of Duty's aggressive, skill-based, engagement-optimized matchmaking means that if you're even remotely good at first-person shooters, you'll be treating most matches as if you're participating in a tournament. This makes the game become a constant sweat fest where you need to be locked in at all times. Call of Duty used to be the FPS franchise known for letting you be able to kick back and relax. Of course, you'd run into sweaty lobbies back then, but it wasn't guaranteed like it is nowadays. You'd be able to relax, wind down after a long day, maybe turn your brain off entirely with some Nuketown 24/7 or something like that. Nowadays though, you can't do that. So that would be the very first thing I'd fix. Another thing I'd fix is the cosmetics. The tonal whiplash in Call of Duty nowadays is strong. You get those grounded in reality, theme-appropriate skins for like a season, maybe two if you're lucky, then the immersion is thrown out the window. Cool-looking skins that have a grounding in reality can exist. It's a shame that Activision hasn't gotten that memo yet. As for the campaign side of things, I don't think there's anything that needs fixing per se. The only thing that I can think of along those lines would be to make sure that the game isn't just a $70 DLC. The main reason why Modern Warfare 3 2023's campaign was so abysmal is because that was originally going to be extra content for Modern Warfare 2 2022 back when COD was scheduled to take a gap year for its releases. But then Activision hit the go back button on that, leaving Sledgehammer and all the other support studios involved to cobble together a standalone story with what they already had. So don't do that again, Call of Duty, okay? And last but not least, Zoyzite102 asks, favorite car racing series, taking into account lower series like the NASCAR Craftsman Truck series. Although I don't watch it as often as I did back in the early 2020s, Formula 1 is still my favorite car racing series. The big reason being its accessibility. Things like the best moments of races, interviews, special games and events with the drivers, official meme compilations even. All of that and more makes F1 super accessible to people. Rather than requiring that people hunt down means to get into a particular motorsport, F1 openly invites people to come check it out in a way that I have yet to see any other motorsport do. And that's a wrap for my 5K subs Q&A. I know this is what everyone says, but it's true. I wouldn't be here without all of you. Hey, that rhymed. I'm glad that you all have been enjoying my stuff. This journey has been a really fun one, and I hope to have you all continue to be part of it. Here's to more videos for many years to come.